Alright, what is up, you guys? I am here with the WWE 2014 pay-per-view ranking. A lot of people have been asking me to continue on with these ranking videos. I already have the next few years planned. Last year, I did 2015. So, yeah, I'll do 2013, 2012, and, all the way down. So, I'll probably do 2013 here pretty soon. So, 2014, it's a very interesting time for WWE because you obviously have the network being born. So that really changed the pay-per-view game and how people were able to view content. And, you were kind of off the heels of the PG era. You weren't as PG as, let's say, like 2010, 2011. But, we're still in the PG era here. But, they're actually building storylines. You have the whole Yes movement, which to this day I love. Daniel Bryan, one of my all-time favorites. He's my favorite current WWE roster member. So, you had your ups and downs. I think the beginning of the year was obviously a little better. And then kind of later on in the year, you kind of slumped a little bit. But dead last, we have TLC. Tables, ladders, and chairs. And fucking stairs. They added stairs. Look, they even drew the stairs in. Look at that. Like, oh my god. I remember when this happened, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, really? You gotta add the damn stairs? Like, it's bad enough you have a chairs match introduced, and now you have a damn stairs match. My god. Okay, if you want a stairs match, just have a no DQ match, and then just go get some stairs. Like, there's fucking 2 pairs of stairs. But I digress. Really, the only match worth watching on this is the Dolph Ziggler-Luke Harper ladder match. That's phenomenal. And then everything else is just kind of really blah and just there. I mean, you have Eric Rowan versus Big Show in a stairs match. A stairs match. You have John Cena and Seth Rollins in a very forgettable tables match. This honestly looks like a bootleg DVD cover. That's what that looks like. You have Bray Wyatt and Dean Ambrose in the TLC match. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. I hate when TLC matches can end with pinfall. I grew up in a different time when you had to climb up and get the belt or grab something. If there's nothing up for grabs, don't make it a ladder or TLC match. Next up, we have everyone's favorite Rumble. Royal Rumble 2014. I remember watching this live and just couldn't believe, how big of a disaster the Rumble match was. The opening match, Bray Wyatt and Daniel Bryan, that's a good match. Then we have John Cena and Randy Orton. Never before seen match there. Big Show and Brock Lesnar was basically a squash match. There's no point in even having that. Obviously making Brock look strong for ending the streak, but still, just leave it off. And then the Rumble, Daniel Bryan obviously wasn't in it. Batista came back. Eventually, winning the Rumble. And I like Batista, but yeah, he was not the right choice. But at the same time, look how it panned out. I've always defended this Rumble. I may be putting it second worst of the year, but if not for this Rumble, and if it not for CM Punk leaving, we would have not gotten as strong of a Yes movement. We wouldn't have had a great WrestleMania 30 storyline. Daniel Bryan was supposed to face Sheamus at WrestleMania 30. That was the original card. Sheamus. What an exciting match that is. So let's be glad that this pay-per-view was garbage. Next up, we have Battleground 2014. Without looking at the back of this DVD, I can guarantee that none of you could probably even name a match on here. Just a very forgettable pay-per-view. You had Chris Jericho and Bray Wyatt. That's really the only interesting thing going in here. You have a 20-man battle royal for the Intercontinental title. We had Roman Reigns, Demon Kane, and Randy Orton versus John Cena in a fatal 4-way. You had Dean Ambrose versus Seth Rollins. And yeah, it's just kind of a forgettable pay-per-view, and kind of is the definition of what a B pay-per-view really is. Next up, we have Extreme Rules. You had John Cena and Bray Wyatt in the very interesting steel cage match with the Demon Children at the end. You have Daniel Bryan versus Kane in an Extreme Rules match, which was Daniel Bryan's only title defense on pay-per-view, unfortunately. And that match was okay. You know, it's cool to see fire back in WWE, but... and then, of course, we had Evolution versus The Shield. And, you know, I think their Payback match was much better than the Extreme Rules one. I don't know, this pay-per-view, you know, Extreme Rules, I've said it before and I'll say it again, Extreme Rules doesn't work in a PG environment. And, you know, this was not a bad Extreme Rules pay-per-view. It just, there were many times where it just kind of felt like a glorified Raw, to be honest. Like, if you took Raw Roulette, if anyone remembers what that is, and just started spinning the fucking wheel. And then you get a lot of this. Next up, we have Payback 2014. You had the really good Daniel Bryan, Stephanie McMahon, Brie Bella segment. You know, you had, of course, John Cena and Bray Wyatt once again in a Last Man Standing match, which I am not a fan of Last Man Standing matches personally. I think John Cena's had way too many of those. Good God. And then, of course, the Evolution Shield storyline kind of comes to an end here. It had a much better match than Extreme Rules, I would say. But overall, it's not a bad pay-per-view. I always really like that cover. And, you know, it may be forgettable for many reasons, but you can't deny Evolution and Shield. They had a great storyline here. Next up, we have Elimination Chamber 2014. There's really one thing that this pay-per-view is known for, and that's the Shield versus the Wyatt family. And just the... I'm going to quote the back here, the epic six-man collision, because this is a phenomenal six-man tag match. I'm not a big fan of six-man tag matches, but it's ones like these that can prove me wrong sometimes. You know, this match was phenomenal. And then you had a decent chamber match with Randy Orton, Christian, Sheamus, John Cena, Daniel Bryan, and Cesaro. It's good to see Cesaro and Christian in there. I'm a huge Christian fan. So, you know, this really just added to the Daniel Bryan Authority storyline. And, you know, it was a good kind of final stop to WrestleMania. Next up, a lot of people might put this lower on the list, but I've always kind of defended Survivor Series 2014. You know, the pay-per-view itself is just kind of bland at times, but the main event, I think, is phenomenal. You have Team John Cena versus the Team Authority, 5-on-5, and, you know, you have Sting showing up at the end, taking Triple H out, you know, costing him the match, kind of paving the way for their eventual rivalry. And, you know, like I said, you know, the lower to mid portion of the card, does it feel like a Big Four pay-per-view? No, but the main event sure as hell does. And I think that kind of makes up for a lot of it. And, yeah, you know, you had Bray Wyatt and Dean Ambrose still. And, you know, just some kind of filler matches, to be honest. But overall, it's not a bad Survivor Series. Next up, we have Night of Champions. Okay, here's the thing about this. At SummerSlam, you had John Cena and Brock Lesnar, that historic match. I felt like this was too soon to do the rematch. Obviously, the rematch is kind of your basic John Cena, Brock Lesnar story. But at the same time, it kind of worked as the main event. We had Rusev and Mark Henry. You had Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose. And a long-awaited head-to-head matchup for the Night of Champions, where there was no title on the line. You know, it's cool to see... I mean, it's always cool to see Goldust and Cody Rhodes, even though he was Stardust at the time. It's always good to see them as tag champions. You know, it's not the worst Night of Champions, and in a lot of ways I always felt like this was kind of the forgotten Night of Champions pay-per-view. Next up, we have Hell in a Cell 2014. So you had John Cena and Randy Orton once again to determine the number one contendership against Brock Lesnar, which this was very obvious it was going to be Cena. We had Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins in a pretty good Hell in a Cell match. We have Rusev versus Big Show for the U.S. title. You have, you know, kind of not... It's not... 2014, with the gimmick pay-per-views, you know, they're not the worst. You know, like I said, like, Hell in a Cell 2014 is decent. You know, Night of Champions is decent. Money in the Bank's good. You know, 2014's gimmick pay-per-views weren't bad. And this is an example. But at the same time, did it really set the world on fire, to quote Wrestling Rampage? No. But still, I'd put it on the upper tier of Hell in a Cell pay-per-views, though. And then next up, we had Money in the Bank 2014. Really like that cover, even though it spoils the entire event. You have, you know, John Cena, yeah, controversial as it is. You have him winning both the unified belts right there. Oh, I missed the big gold belt. I missed the big gold belt at the same time. They really tarnished it, so maybe it was best to retire it. But that's my all-time favorite belt. You have Seth Rollins winning Money in the Bank, which we all know where that led to. So, you know, that was a great move on their part. And overall, Money in the Bank, to me, has been one of the most consistently good pay-per-views in the last, you know, decade that it's been around. 2010, so yeah, 10 years now. So, yeah, very good Money in the Bank pay-per-view. SummerSlam 2014. So this was kind of historic in a lot of ways. You had Randy Orton versus Roman Reigns in kind of Roman's first really big singles pay-per-view match. So that kind of obviously led to different places. You know, you have Stephanie McMahon versus Brie Bella. You know, yeah, it's that. But this pay-per-view is mostly known for John Cena versus Brock Lesnar. This was a great main event. This was historic in so many ways. You know, if you grew up in the Ruthless Aggression era and obviously watched through the awful PG era, this match was very interesting because it wasn't a squash match, but it was a very one-sided match. Brock Lesnar, you know, he won the belts, and he would hold on to it until WrestleMania 31. So yeah, having John Cena, it's like seeing Hulk Hogan or like San Martino just completely destroyed. It's kind of the equivalent, you know, the kind of the modern Hulk Hogan just being demolished. But overall, it feels like a SummerSlam. You know, you have some other matches on here. Obviously, you have Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose in a lumberjack match. And, you know, it's, you also have RVD versus Cesaro in the kickoff match. Because that's not good enough to put on the card. Okay. So I wonder what number one could be. WrestleMania 30. And something really cool that I actually have. Don't ask me how I got this. But I actually have in here confetti from WrestleMania 30. From the Daniel Bryan celebration. Yeah, the purple and yellow confetti. Nice little fun fact. I keep it with my little... I keep it in my slipcover here. With the WrestleMania book. But I think I did an unboxing on that. That would have been years ago, though. So yeah, WrestleMania 30 obviously is the best pay-per-view of 2014. I've gone on so many times about the Daniel Bryan Authority storyline. I'm just repeating myself at this point. Such a great storyline. You had a great opener, Triple H versus Daniel Bryan. You had a great, probably the only great Battle Royal in WrestleMania history. The first Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal with Cesaro, doing the slam out on Big Show. But, that was great. Great moment. You had the streak ending. I'll never forget seeing the streak end. Honestly, that was, I was watching it from home, and that was just, I'll never forget it. And then you had your main event, Daniel Bryan versus Batista versus Randy Orton, which was a phenomenal triple threat match. And Chris Benoit being one of my all-time favorite wrestlers, and having Daniel Bryan be one of my all-time favorite wrestlers as well, they really kind of mimicked each other here. At one of the not really decade, but at one of the milestone, 20, 30 WrestleManias, they won a triple threat match to win the world title. So, really, really cool moment. And kind of mimicked that Chris Benoit moment for me. But, yeah, this was just, it's one of the greatest WrestleManias of all time. I think I ranked it like number 4. So, definitely let me know your thoughts on the year of 2014. It's an up and down year, but for the most part, it was an improvement over previous years. So I hope you guys enjoyed this ranking. For now, this has been the DVD Freak. Peace out.